First time I saw them, they descended from the sky like gods in armor. Even in the chaos of war, amidst the screams and the infernal roar of the battlefield, everything seemed to slow down when the Astartes landed on Gildred 5, my homeworld. They came in thunderous dropships, the air shimmering with heat, the very ground trembling beneath their weight. They weren't gods, not truly. Gods wouldn't need us. We were expendable. We were also necessary. That morning, I was nothing more than a foot slogger, a grunt with a laser gun and a prayer. The captain barked orders, his voice cracking through the vox. "Hold the line," he screamed, as if that would make any difference against the endless tide of Xenos filth pouring over the horizon. Orcs, vicious and numerous, swarming like an ocean of green muscle and guttural violence. For days we'd been fighting, barely sleeping, barely eating. Morale was a joke. The only thing we clung to was that maybe someone would notice we were still alive. Then the Astartes came. Space Marines. To us, they were myth. Stories told in hushed tones in the barracks, exaggerated to the point of madness. There was no exaggerating the sight of them. Their armor gleamed even through the dust and blood, each of them a mountain of ceramite, moving with precision and cold efficiency. Couldn't stop staring. Couldn't believe they were real. I wasn't the only one. My squad mates, seasoned veterans who'd fought in campaign after campaign, fell silent as the Astartes marched past. We knew in that moment that they were the Emperor's angels. They were warriors who'd seen things we couldn't even fathom. They were beyond us, or so we thought. The fighting that followed was brutal. Orcs were beasts, yes, but they fought with a cunning I hadn't expected. They ambushed us in the ruins of our own cities, using the wreckage to their advantage. A few of us, the smarter ones, had already figured out their tactics. I'd been watching, noticing the patterns in their attacks, the way they'd overwhelm us with sheer numbers, then retreat, regroup, and hit another weak spot. What did I know? I was just a grunt. The first ambush came at dusk. We were setting up defensive lines, and I was sent to the front. The air was thick with smoke and the stench of burnt flesh. You never forget that smell. It's worse when it's your comrades. I had just spotted something odd, too quiet in the distance, when the orcs exploded from the shadows, roaring and tearing through our lines. I was ready, though. Something told me to be ready. I fought like I'd never fought before, not just for my life, but for the lives of my brothers. The Astartes, for all their might, couldn't be everywhere at once. Power incarnate, yes. There were so few of them. We had to hold the line where they couldn't. I shot down 2 orcs before I saw him. A space marine in black armor, one of the Raven Guard. He was a shadow on the battlefield, silent and deadly. Orc Knob had him in its sights, charging with a roaring chain axe. My laser gun wouldn't make a difference, not against that. I fired anyway. It was all I could do. And I hit it, right in the eye. The beast staggered, its roar cut short, and in that moment, the Marine struck it down with a single brutal blow. It didn't even look at me, didn't nod in thanks. But I felt something, a connection in that moment. It wasn't just some fodder, it wasn't invisible. It was a soldier of the Imperium, and I'd just saved one of the Emperor's angels. For a brief moment, I thought, maybe, just maybe, it wasn't as expendable as they made us feel. War doesn't care about feelings. The orcs pressed harder, and we fought through the night. Hours felt like days. When dawn broke, there were fewer of us than before. I lost brothers that day. Men who had fought beside me in dozens of battles. Their bodies torn apart by crude axes or ripped to shreds by crude guns. There wasn't time to grieve, though. There never was. That's when the second ambush came. They came from below this time, out of the sewers. We thought we'd cleared them, but we were wrong. Orcs burst from the ground, hacking and slashing through the rear lines. My squad was cut in half before we even realized what was happening. I saw Captain Haldren, my mentor, my friend, beheaded in a single stroke. I froze. For just a moment. It's all it takes. An orc slammed into me, sending me crashing to the ground. The laser gun was knocked from my hands. My helmet cracked as my head hit the rubble. I saw stars, heard the distant rumble of gunfire, the screams of the dying. I thought it was over. I thought, in that moment, I was going to die. But I didn't. Somehow, I found the strength to roll, to grab my knife. I stabbed upward into the orc's throat, and it collapsed on top of me. I took everything I had to shove its massive, bleeding corpse off my chest. When I finally got back on my feet, I realized something. We were losing. The Astartes were few, and though they fought like the legend said, there weren't enough of them to hold the entire line. We needed to do our part. We needed to be more than just cannon fodder. I rallied what was left of my squad. "Hold the line," I shouted. This time, the words meant something. This time, we didn't just hold. We pushed. I don't know where the strength came from. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was the Emperor's will. Maybe it was just pure, unadulterated survival instinct. We fought back, hard. By the time the Astartes regrouped, we had pushed the orcs back. My hands were slick with blood. My body ached in places I didn't know could ache. We had survived. More than that, we had won. A Raven Guard captain approached me after the battle. His face was a mask of cold indifference. There was something in his eyes, something that told me he had seen what I'd done. He didn't say much, a simple nod. That nod was everything. It was recognition. It was respect. In just one day, I had gone from being a nameless guardsman to a sergeant. Didn't know if I was ready for the responsibility. Hell, I didn't think I'd live long enough to find out. But I knew one thing. I wasn't forgotten. No matter what happened next, no matter where the war took me, I'd earned my place. I stood beside the Emperor's angels, fought with everything I had. For the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged. That feeling came with a cost. Memories of that day, the blood, the screams, death, they never leave. Every night when I close my eyes, I see the faces of the men I couldn't save. The sound of the orcs' roar still echoes in my ears. The weight of that day, the sacrifices we made, still presses down on me. But I bear it, because that's what we do. We fight, we die, we are remembered. We are the forgotten gods, not by each other, never by each other.